traveling, often you can be alone with your thoughts. So how was being alone with your thoughts post-divorce?
For me, I did. So initially, there was a lot of distraction. I didn't spend a whole lot of time alone with my thoughts, be it hiking or exploring somewhere new or partying or, spending time with people. There wasn't a lot of introspection necessarily, but if you're going to be alone with your thoughts, which I was some of the time, doing it in nature is the way to go, honestly. Being able to look at the water, look at the mountains, look at the trees, gives a sense of safety when you feel like so much in your world's outside of your control. There's so much that's confusing. Looking at the stillness of the waters or the beauty of the trees, that was really, really helpful for me.
Yeah. I was the opposite. I think I spent a lot of time alone with my thoughts. I did go to therapy and do all the support things after we separated. It was tough. There was a lot of questions. I think the thing I remember the most is like my anger towards God, or my disappointment towards God, my anger towards God, and really having to wrestle with that aspect of grief and loss. Things don't always work out. I get that. That's sort of like a part of life. My parents are divorced. It's, it wasn't like, oh my God, this thing that never happens, So I could understand it on a real life level, but I think it was the God level that I really struggled with in those times of silence and quietness with my thought. I was like, but God, really? This is what you do? This is what, it was that part I remember I struggled with. I would go to therapy and be like, but why would God do this? You know what I mean? It was, yeah. My therapist was like, yeah, okay, well. Let's work that out. But then it's so weird because even in traveling, I think I see God the most when I travel. So I don't know, it's a weird thing. In my mind, I'm like, there has to be a God. I love hiking. Me and my girlfriends used to go on Saturday mornings, and I'd be like, oh, the trees and the mountains and the beauty and the lakes and the large expanses of water. And I'm like, there has to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So moments where it takes you outside of yourself.
Absolutely.
Makes you feel like you and your own things are not as big.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So travel can be a form of distraction, or it could be a form of reflection.
Yeah.
But okay.
Definitely.
You were still growing, you were still developing, and I don't know, changing your perspective on the year prior.
Oh, changing my perspective? That didn't come till much later.
Okay.
That took a longer period of time.
Are you talking about, did it change our
The
perspective
year.
on the marriage time?
The
or
marriage. Yeah.
Ah. So you would say that travel did not change your perspective on the marriage?
No. I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
Not travel specifically, no.
For me, it did. For me, I still have a lot of appreciation for Genevieve. But at the worst times in our marriage, it felt like we were nothing alike and we were a terrible match for each other. But when you think about it, we're both raised in the same geolocation, right? With the same faith, similar sense of humor, right? That's why she thinks I'm witty. Because in other parts of the world, the women don't think I'm as witty because they don't get my jokes. So it was a serious loss, and I feel bad for them because they don't have the benefits that she has.
Yeah.
For example, we were able to connect on food and on purpose and on dreams. Some parts of the world, they're not taught to dream big. And they shouldn't dream big. Well, I shouldn't say everyone. There's benefits to dreaming big from a data-driven standpoint, but there's a lot of things that are more realistic or more accessible to us because of either where we're raised, the privilege we've had access to in so many ways. I look back with more fondness and appreciation for Genevieve because I've seen how other people live, and there's beauty in all of it, but it's also very different. And I kind of seen a whole different set of struggles that might have been presented to me.
Yeah, I hear that. And I didn't have the same experience, but I definitely resonate with that. When I moved to South America, integrating into that community was really exciting, but really hard. And what I was thinking about was not the marriage, but my growing up in Toronto and how easy it was to connect with other people because of proximity or because of like similar engagement and activities and whatever. Like I went to elementary school, I went to high school with you, I went to university, we played on the soccer team together, we went to the same church or whatever. And that's where most of my relationships and connections were birthed. And going into a new community and a new place, it was like, oh, I don't have any connections here. Like I don't know anybody here.
Yeah.
So now I have to like learn how to connect with people from like no baseline.
Yeah.
And these are people from a different culture, completely different space. And it's like, yes, a smile is always going to do it. Smiles are universal. You know, just be nice for sure. But you have language differences and barriers, right? You have cultural differences and barriers. And I'm the kind of person, I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, we're talking about, you know, I'm passionate about relationships and passionate about like dreaming and purpose and things like that. But you're absolutely right. Like some cultures are not taught to speak in that way, to see themselves that way, even to have conversations in that way. I remember having a conversation in a setting with some ladies, and I was like, well, you know, when you're in a relationship, whatever, you should express yourself. And I'm talking all these like healthy relational elements, and they're like, yeah, we don't do that here. Like we like we're not confrontational. We're very like mild mannered. You know, we're very this. And I was like, oh yeah, Jen, like you're not in Kansas anymore. Like you're, you know what I mean? Like, hello, this is not, you know, your context, and you sort of have to learn how to fall in line, but also grow an appreciation for the way that other people live. And yeah, I thought it was really cool to like challenge myself to learn how to build community as an adult, right? Because it requires different skills.
Yeah.
Like making friends as an adult is like it's different. It's a different ballgame altogether.
That's facts. Yeah.
And yet important for your healing journey.
Oh, so important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because when you go through divorce, like you almost question your lovability. You question like your sense of existence. It's like, am I really a good person? Am I okay? For my healing journey, the self-esteem piece came up, right? It was like, okay, are these people going to like me? Am I likable?
Yeah.
Right? Or are they going to get to know me and then want to leave me? Right? And I think that was part of like the instilled idea going through divorce. It was like, well, this person was like the closest to me and treated me this way. Then how's anybody else going to treat me better? Or this person was with me and now they hate me, or and obviously not, you don't hate me, but you know, there's separation there anyways, and we can interpret that however we want to. But yeah, there's that, you know, that question. Like, I think we all have that on some level. Like, are we likable?
Yeah.
You know, like, can we make friends? Are you going to be my friend? You know, are you going to stay my friend?
Yeah, that's real.
And we all want friends. Like, we all want to be liked. You know, I think that's a human thing. It's a human need, you know?
Yeah. Something I experienced that was therapeutic related to what you're saying is that I felt like in certain parts of the world, I was embraced. Parts of me were embraced that I didn't feel like were embraced anywhere else. Right?
Like what?
So, for example, there's a
I
part
was
of...
going to say your left ear, but never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, my left...
Go ahead.
You always love my left ear. Come on.
I'll stop this. It's the right one, but go on.
So there's a part of Mexico that I have lived for much of the last 3 winters. When I first went, I was a struggling entrepreneur, divorced, struggling financially, lots of questions, lots of confusion. What I realized is that community is full of struggling entrepreneurs, many of whom are divorced, many of whom were around my age. And as entrepreneurs, sometimes like it's such a even just being an entrepreneur can be a really lonely existence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As we know here, you feel like you have to portray things as being better than maybe they actually are, depending on what's happening. Your schedule is different. Your needs are different. Your focus is different. The way you do your taxes is different.
Yeah.
Your dreams are different.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some reasons and incompatibilities as to why you're not working a traditional job, because some things are important to you that are not as important to your employers, or vice versa. Some things that are not important to you that employers care more about, right?
Right.
So I found a lot of kinship with the people there who like were dreamers and were creatives and were like
Oh, nice.
were quirky and didn't fit the status quo in the same way, and were growth minded and driven, and at different points in their journey. Some were uber successful, some were even less successful, or less even earlier in their journey than I was. So I found like I just didn't feel as alone the more I traveled. I found that parts of me identify with different parts of different communities in the world in a way that I didn't expect.
Wow, and well, like you said, back in Toronto, no one was in the same life stage or right that you were in, and so all of a sudden travel opened that up for you, and you found more like-minded or just similar people in a similar season.
Right. Even something as simple as I don't drive right now, right? And I don't drive because I got a DUI when I was in the throes of recovering unhealthily from separation and divorce. So, and I went to a community, and it was a walking community, which felt really good because I could get around, right? Whereas back home, I couldn't see any of my friends because we'd have an hour drive to see each other. And come to find out that I wasn't the only person in that community that had some sort of like driving conviction and had been through something similar. I wasn't even the only person who had gotten separated and or divorced and handled it poorly, and then as a result, got a DUI.
Wow.
Talking therapy, like it's healthy to feel like you're not alone, right? That's one of the most oppressive things is to feel like you're alone. In this community, I wasn't the only person who was like aggressively growth minded. This is who I was. This is the mistakes I made. I need to be somebody different in order to survive and not screw up my life and other people's lives. So I was surrounded by people who thought the same way, and we were able to bounce ideas and techniques off of each other in a really meaningful way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So travel can be therapeutic.
So what practical tips would you advise for those looking to use travel as a form of therapy?
Practical tips? I would say, do you have, I was like, do you want to jump in? I would say to find, when you say practical tips, I'm thinking like budgeting and packing. Can I do maybe a non-practical tip?
Do a non-practical
Okay.
Impractical tips.
An impractical tip. Because I think what I've learned, along with how to pack a carry-on to travel 3 weeks, and how to search for cheap flights or right, cheap flights, some of those error fares online, right, or how to collect points so you can travel for near free. Those are practical tips. But I think fundamentally speaking, what I've learned while traveling and throughout travel is how important and how much better travel can be when you have a purpose in it. And so if there's a purpose for your travel, it's an intentionally set out purpose. Maybe you're going to help a group, build a house for orphans or something like that. When there's some kind of like purpose in it, maybe you want to blog or vlog or document your experience so that you can share it with others, or you can write a book, or you can, create something that adds value to the lives of other people. I think that makes travel even more impactful and more meaningful and more fulfilling for life. It maximizes the benefits of travel. And I guess, when you think of it, like relaxation, rejuvenation, refreshing, and, lying on a beach for 6 days, maybe not 6 days, but I think even in resting like intentionally can be a purpose, but just setting out like for yourself, not just like, I'm going to escape and distract myself from life. But therapy is intentional, right? So if we're talking about travel as therapy, you have to set an intention, right? It has to be for something.
I like that. I think I haven't always done that.
Yeah, me neither.
But I have done that sometimes, and it does make a difference. Setting your intention always makes a difference, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
My practical tip is find other people and do what they're doing. Say yes when they invite you. Because then you'll find yourself doing things that you never would have expected, and expanding the way that you think and expanding your horizons and your paradigms in a really memorable and meaningful way. Like, obviously, I'm not saying if they're inviting you to do something that's against your core values, like, hey, let's go club some baby seals. Like,
Not baby seals.
say no then. But if it's something that seems strange or uncomfortable, or you don't even know exactly what it means, saying yes has changed everything for me because I've done things I never thought I would do or could do. And I like things that I didn't think I would like.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Good tip.
Wow.
I like that one.
Wow. Say yes.
Say yes.
Okay.
Have you seen Yes Man?
Yes.
Yes? Yes.
Yes.
That was one of my favorite movies. Yeah, it was a good movie. Yeah. Opens you up to new possibilities.
Okay. So your travel opened you up to new possibilities, and you still intend on traveling. What are your future travel plans?
Ooh, yeah. Well, here we are. I mean, personally speaking, I want to travel the world. So if anybody wants to call me to speak, to teach, to train, to coach, to do anything across the world, I am there in a heart, like less than a heartbeat. I'm there. So that's a given. Personally, I want to travel to ancient civilizations. So I want to go to like Egypt and China and, you know, those kind of places. But together, I think as we start this initiative and it kind of, you know, gets going, our heart for travel is still present. We still, you know, we both love travel and we can travel together. And I think with this, I think, you know, there's still opportunity to, or there will be opportunities to travel the world and to, you know, go and connect with people that we can add value to and impact and maybe have intentional travel fun with.
This year, actually, I made an intentional choice to travel less. Okay. And that's because for much of the last 4 years, I was living in other parts of the world. And it was an amazing experience. And I still want to travel more. Like I totally agree with and co-sign what Genevieve said about as opportunities are presented, I'm going to say yes, right? Say yes.
Nice.
Say yes.
But I'm more selective now because we're no longer in the pandemic, and I have friends and family here who I love. One of my values and my goals, something I learned from Genevieve actually, is I want to spend time with my friends' children as they're growing up. And I realized that when I was living in Mexico or living in Abu Dhabi or visiting Colombia or visiting Oman, like in their minds, they're like, Samuel's elsewhere. Samuel's not here. He's not a part of our lives. So it's an important value for me to be more present and for them to expect me to be here for the most part, even though I'll still be away from a business trip or might be speaking in another part of the world. Or I might say, I want to live here for 2 months and I'm still going to do that, right? Or 2 years, who knows? And that was something we talked about when we were getting engaged and courting and married. Travel is still an important value, and we both ended up living in other parts of the world. Wow. And we're doing what we were going to do separately. And then now together in some form. Because it sounds like we're still going to be traveling together, right? If all goes well. But so my plans are just to be more present for the most part, but still say yes when, you know, the right opportunity comes along.
Oh. Yeah. Say yes. Yeah. Okay.
So our marriage didn't work for travel, but maybe our podcast will.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you remember the last trip we went on when we were separated? We didn't tell anybody?
Which one?
We went to England and Iceland and France.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That was a great trip. Oh my gosh.
Iceland is amazing.
Iceland
is amazing.
Beautiful. Goodness. Conferences in Iceland. We're there.
Yes.
Caller.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you need us to speak at the Blue Lagoon, we're
100%. 100% in.
Yeah.
Okay. We won't hesitate. I'll move plans.
What's the number one place that you haven't been to that you want to go to?
Egypt. Yeah, I want to go to Egypt.
And for yourself?
Japan.
I was going to say Japan. That's so funny. But Egypt's number one. Japan's number two.
I almost went to Egypt last year.
Did you?
Yeah.
Man.
I had a friend who owns property out there, and she invited me out for her birthday.
Oh, yeah. That would have been incredible.
Would have been good. She was one of those friends that, you know, they like you, and you're like, you want to say yes, but you can't say yes. Because you don't want to give them the wrong impression.
Yeah, you should have said yes. Just say yes. Just say yes.
Maybe
it would have opened you up to this great opportunity.
I wanted to say yes, but it would have been irresponsible, I think.
Well, hey, you know yourself better than anybody else. But maybe not better than me.
I hope the audio caught that.
Mike.
The hubris.
All right. Okay. So we ready to wrap?
Who's closing it out?
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on our adventure.
Thank you.
And listening to our stories about our travel and the way that it helped us heal from divorce. We want to know, how did you deal with divorce. Did travel help you? How has travel helped you heal from the things that you experienced in your life? So feel free to drop a comment below or share your stories with us. We love to hear them. Beyond that, we're looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks so much.